Alright, so we've got a huge storm system that's about to impact a large portion of the United States, and this one is bringing the full menu of severe weather hazards. We're talking damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, and on top of all that, there's also going to be a serious flooding threat across parts of the Great Plains and the Southeast over the next few days. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know as we look ahead at the next 7 days of weather across the country. So please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Now, starting with what's happening today, man, it's already been active. Over the last 24 hours, we saw a pretty widespread severe weather outbreak stretch all the way from Texas up into Minnesota. That system is still hanging around and will continue to bring some isolated severe storms this morning. But I expect the bigger severe threat to fire up this afternoon from the Great Lakes region, all the way back down into Texas. This afternoon and evening, all hazards are on the table. Wind, hail, tornadoes, you name it. And here's the thing. This isn't going to be a one-and-done type of system. We're looking at multiple shortwave troughs tracking in from the Rockies, and that's going to keep the severe weather threat alive through much of the next 7 to 10 days. Let's get into the specific severe weather setup for today, which is Tuesday. There's a large slight risk zone in place from Des Moines, Iowa, all the way down through central and north Texas, including Dallas-Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Joplin, Springfield. The marginal risk extends even farther, basically from the Great Lakes right back to Texas. We're expecting widespread storms this afternoon, and while not every single storm will turn severe, I do think scattered severe weather is a pretty solid bet. Large hail is definitely on my radar today, especially across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. I wouldn't even be surprised if we see some hail the size of tennis balls later on. There's also a tornado threat, and I do think we could see a few of those spin up anywhere from southern Wisconsin down to North Texas. The Storm Prediction Center may end up issuing a 5% tornado risk area, especially across North Texas and Oklahoma, where there's a decent shot at seeing a discrete supercell or two pop up ahead of the main line. If that happens, there's even a shot at an isolated strong tornado, so definitely something I'll be watching closely. If you're anywhere in that green shaded area, you need to stay weather aware today and make sure you've got multiple ways to get alerts. If this setup gets more concerning, I'll likely be going live right here on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. Now heading into Wednesday, that severe threat shifts a bit farther east. And then we got yet another system swinging out of the southwest. That low pressure will track across the Four Corners region and kick off what'll probably be multiple days of severe weather. It starts with some lower-end risk across the High Plains Wednesday, but then it ramps up Thursday across parts of the southern and central plains. Back in the Ohio Valley, we'll be seeing some lingering effects from today's storm system. Not expecting much in the way of tornadoes out that way, but damaging wind and some isolated large hail are possible. So let's talk timing for today. Over in the Midwest, we've already got some scattered showers and storms out there. Not a ton of severe weather this morning, but a few storms could produce gusty winds or some hail. It's just after lunchtime when things really get going. We're going to see multiple clusters of storms fire up, and the main threats are going to be damaging winds and hail up to golf ball size. There's also an isolated tornado threat if any of these clusters can organize into what's called a bowing segment, basically a forward-pushing arc of wind-driven storms. We actually had something like that yesterday in the central and southern plains. Tons of damaging wind, not much tornadic activity, but today we've got more moisture, so I'm expecting a little better chance at tornado development, especially in parts of the Midwest and Central Plains. By mid to late afternoon, say around 3 to 4 p.m., we're going to have storms tracking across places like western Illinois, northern Missouri, and down into Oklahoma. Around 5 or 6 p.m., these storms are going to push farther east. I think our best tornado potential will be back over northeast Missouri and western Illinois during that window. As we head into the evening hours, storms will start to lose a bit of steam as they approach Chicago and areas around the Great Lakes, which is good news if you're out that way. But elsewhere, particularly in parts of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, we could still see a few isolated strong storms Wednesday. Tornado threat will be super low up that way, but some gusty winds or hail can't be ruled out. In the Central Plains, storms are going to ramp up right around lunchtime today. We'll likely have some clusters in Kansas and northern Oklahoma. As we go into the afternoon, those storms move east toward Kansas City and also redevelop farther southwest across northern Oklahoma. And here's the deal. We're not just talking about a severe weather threat here. There's also a flash flooding risk because these storms are going to keep training over the same areas for hours. If you're in low-lying areas, please stay off the roads when things get going this afternoon and evening. By 4 to 5 p.m., I'm expecting several storm clusters to be active, most of them carrying a risk of damaging wind and hail. Down in the southern areas, especially northern Oklahoma and North Texas, if we get some discrete cells popping out ahead of the main line, we could be dealing with large to very large hail. Maybe even apple-sized hail in the most intense storms. These storms should push into eastern and southern Oklahoma by 7 or 8 p.m., reaching Oklahoma City between 8 and 9. After that, they'll start to weaken as they head into Missouri and Arkansas overnight. One area that probably won't see weakening, though, is Texas. In fact, storms will approach the Dallas-Fort Worth area around midnight with all hazards on the table, but wind will likely be the biggest concern. Between 1 and 2 a.m., storms should be rumbling through Dallas and heading toward Waco and Austin. Most of that should wind down past sunrise Wednesday. And unfortunately, this active weather pattern is not going anywhere. Thursday and Friday are looking stormy again. Thursday, we could see supercells develop across West Texas and up toward the Oklahoma Panhandle, with all threats on the table. If things line up, I'll probably be going live for that as well. Friday looks like it could bring a bigger thunderstorm, complex into the central and southern plains, again with all severe hazards possible. Honestly, we're looking at a stretch of near-daily severe weather chances through at least mid-June. The pattern is being driven not by a super-strong jet stream, but by persistent troughing over the Rockies. That's going to keep pumping out these shortwaves, which in turn drive severe storm development across the central part of the country. Meanwhile, the East Coast is getting some weak ridging. It won't be enough to totally block severe weather, but it should at least reduce the number of bigger events out that way. So, if you're in the Ohio Valley or Northeast, you might see 1 or 2 events over the next couple weeks, but nothing like what we went through in April or May. Looking into next week, the GFS model still shows more shortwave troughs moving through, and believe it or not, we could even see a tropical system try to get going. There's some chatter about a potential tropical or subtropical storm developing off the Carolinas, or maybe even in the Gulf or Caribbean. I'll be watching that closely. Now, just to wrap it up and put this into simpler terms, Thursday we'll have scattered storms across much of the country, but the central and southern plains are going to be the hotspot. Friday, storms move east with lingering severe weather in the Ohio Valley. Then on Saturday, we'll have another round of severe weather, especially in Dixie Alley and the southeast, but also back in the high plains. We might get a brief break, Sunday into Monday, but don't count on it lasting long. Monday through Wednesday next week looks active again. This pattern just won't quit, thanks to all that troughing along the West Coast and Rockies. And yeah, on top of everything, there's going to be a ton of rain. Parts of the Central Plains, the Ozarks, Oklahoma City. You all could be looking at 4 to 8 inches of rain this week alone. Isolated areas might even top 10 inches. If you're in the red shaded areas on the rainfall map, you're looking at 3 inches, and purple or blue zones will still see at least a ½ inch. Flood watches are already in effect from North Texas through Missouri for today and early tomorrow, so be ready for that. And finally, hurricane season has officially begun, and we've already got our first area of interest off the Carolinas. Only about a 10% chance of development over the next 5 days, but if it stays offshore, we might get a weak tropical or subtropical storm. The main concern would be some coastal flooding in the Carolinas, so something to keep an eye on. Thanks for watching today's forecast. Make sure you're subscribed and have those notifications on. I'll see you all then or in the next update.